case. This is about Wayne Williams on signing R. Kelly and why he's playing wait and see on latest charges of exclusive Q&A. Now, I don't know Wayne Williams. I never heard of him. I don't know where he came from or anything like that. So this guy is pretty much new to me right now. So I never heard of this guy in my life. So this is a new one to me. Almost 30 years ago, a Chicago house music DJ from the Ida B. Wells Projects went to a barbecue on the south side. While he fixed a plate, his ears picked up music in the backyard. A longtime musician, his ears were always open. Yeah, so 30 years ago, a Chicago house music DJ from the Ida B. Wells Project. And of course, he went to the barbecue on the south side. He fixed a plate. His ears picked up music in the backyard. Of course, you know, when you hear something, your ears are going to be directed towards it. A longtime musician, his ears were always... Oh, okay. But this was different. Normally, at an informal party, a musician would sing well-known songs to keep the audience engaged, but he could hear someone performing what sounded like original music, and the audience was all in. Okay, so this one with Wayne Williams, he had picked up on it, of course, with his ears. His ears were always open, of course. But this was different for him. And a musician would sing well-known songs to keep the audience engaged, but he could hear someone perform it what sounded like original music. Wayne Williams stepped outside and watched a slim, brown-skinned singer with an electric energy performing on a makeshift stage. And so Wayne Williams, he did step outside. And of course, he watched a slim brown-skinned singer with an electric energy. There was no doubt that the young man, though unpolished, was promising as an A&R for Jive Records. Williams was ready to sign him before he even finished his show. After his performance, Williams asked him where he got the music. Okay, so there was no doubt about it that the young man thought, though unpolished, that's who R. Kelly was. He was unpolished at the time. And of course, as an A&R for Jive Records, Williams was ready to sign him before he even finished his show. Robert Kelly, 22, looked Williams in the eye. "Those are all my songs." Williams nodded. "Do you have any more?" he asked. Kelly laughed. "I got nothing but songs." So R. Kelly was 22 at the time, and he looked Williams in the eye, and he said, "Those are all my songs." And of course, Williams nodded. He asked, "Do you have any more?" And of course, R. Kelly laughed and said, "I got nothing but songs." Like Brian Epstein and the Beatles, Maurice Starr and New Edition, Wayne Williams became the legendary launching pad for one of the music industry's most celebrated acts. It took Williams over a year to get the check writers at Jive to see his vision. At first, his bosses passed, saying that Kelly looked and sounded too much like Aaron Hall, lead singer of music group Guy. So they think that R. Kelly sounded too much like Aaron Hall, but you know there is no way that Aaron Hall and R. Kelly could have had the same voice, so their voices were different. Like Brian Epstein and the Beatles, Maurice Starr and New Edition, Wayne Williams became the legendary launching pad for these celebrities, of course. It would be Neil Portnow, VP of Jive's LA office and now outgoing president of the Recording Academy, to get the ball rolling. he told Wayne to arrange a showcase at Chicago's Regal Theater after hearing the song's demo. Barry Weiss, then head of Jive's New York office, went to Chicago to see this young man perform. Within a year, his first album would be released. Yes, so Barry Weiss, then head of Jive's New York office, went to Chicago to to see R. Kelly perform at the time when he was 22 years old. Of course, Neil Portnow, VP of Jive's LA office, and of course, outgoing president of the Recording Academy, to get the ball rolling. So they wanted to get the ball rolling of R. Kelly to start having albums would be released. Over the next 2 decades after that showcase, the singer known as R. Kelly released 10 consecutive platform certified albums. So for 20 years, R. Kelly had released 10 consecutive platform certified albums. But you know, a lot of people want to mute R. Kelly. Okay, go ahead and mute him. But you got to mute all the other singers that were performing with him. You got to mute them too, not just R. Kelly. Mute the other singers that was performing with him. And in those same 2 decades, he had compromised dozens of criminal charges ranging from child pornography to aggravated criminal sexual assault. Of course he did. He had got charges ranging from child pornography to aggravated criminal sexual assault. You think he was innocent then? Of course he was, because he bought his acquittal. He paid money for it. The dichotomy, a confirmed genius with an alleged criminal streak, will coexist for decades unless an overflow of new charges, the pull of social media, and the confidence of women, supported by the hashtag #MeToo movement, collapses the house of R. Kelly. So yeah, a confirmed genius with an alleged criminal streak will coexist for decades. Of course, R. Kelly had other people involved with it. And of course, you know, by the hashtag #MeToo movement collapses the house of R. Kelly, of course, the women came out and told their stories. But the man who discovered him is not ready to disavow him. The house of R. Kelly may barely stand, but Williams will only acknowledge the facts and urges others to do the same. So the man who discovered him is not ready to disavow him yet. So they don't want him just yet. So this is why Williams will only acknowledge the facts and urges others to do the same. So in other words, they got to take a look at his background and see what he has done. In over 30 years, Wayne Williams has granted a scant handful of interviews, most centering on his own legendary career in house music. Williams is largely credited for bringing house music from downtown bars to the south side of Chicago in the 70s and early 80s as a young DJ. Okay, so Wayne Williams was a young DJ back then. He was largely credited for bringing house music from downtown bars to the south side of Chicago in the 70s and early 80s. So he was doing pretty good for himself back then. Over a 2-hour interview that tracks his life with R. Kelly from the early days of his career, Williams speaks exclusively to Billboard about Kelly's world, from the past acquittals and the latest federal charges. Mr. Williams have been speaking to Billboard about Kelly's world, and it's from past acquittals that R. Kelly bought himself, and of course the judge found him not guilty. But that was a lie out of R. Kelly, what he has done. from the past acquittals and the latest federal charges. Of course, the latest federal charges is still the child pornography thing, allegedly. There's other charges that are on him. In 1994, Robert played You Are Not Alone for Me. He was thinking of sending it to Michael Jackson the first time I heard it. I was in the studio with my cousin. My cousin didn't like the song. He trashed it right in front of Robert. Alright, so in 1994, Robert played You Are Not Alone for him. And he was thinking of sending it to Michael. Of course, Michael Jackson had redid the song himself, and Michael Jackson did a better job than R. Kelly did. And of course, it was the first time that Wayne Williams heard it. I was in the studio, or he was in the studio with his cousin. His cousin didn't like those songs, so he trashed it right from in front of Robert. I said he was crazy. It was a smash. From that moment, Robert knew nothing would change my opinion if I knew I was right. I didn't say, well, maybe it's just okay. Just because my cousin was sitting there saying it wasn't good didn't change my opinion. It was a good song, and I knew it. Robert knew I would be honest about music, and if I didn't like a song, I'd be honest about that too. Yeah, so Wayne Williams knew if he didn't like a song, that was his opinion. And if he did like the song, that was his opinion. So, and as he's saying, just because my cousin was sitting there saying it wasn't good, didn't change my opinion. So it never changed his opinion at all. Never. Because Wayne Williams had his own opinion about the song. And of course, You Are Not Alone, yeah, he did send it to Michael Jackson after a while because Wayne Williams didn't like it from R. Kelly. I'll never forget it. Robert wanted Michael to come to Chicago. Michael wanted Robert to come to LA. Robert said, if you want this song, you're coming to Chicago. And sure enough, Michael came. And so Robert wanted Michael to come to Chicago, so okay, he did. And Michael wanted Robert to come to LA. And of course, Robert told Michael if he wanted that song, he has to come to Chicago. And sure enough, Michael did come. When he came, he said, I love this song. I'm ready to record this. They talk a bit more. And then Robert says, make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back. I need to go to the restroom. He walks out and then he motions for me to follow him out in the studio. He's ultra professional. And so R. Kelly told Michael Michael said that he was ready to record this, and of course they talked a bit more. Then Robert says, make yourself comfortable, that he'll be right back, and he was going to the restroom. So R. Kelly did that. Michael was there at the studio. He walks, and then of course R. Kelly walks out, and then he motions for me to follow him, in other words, Wayne Williams, to follow him. But we meet in the bathroom, and he stares, screaming, Wayne, we're working with Michael. I can't say that word because, I have to substitute. Michael Jackson. Can you believe this? This is crazy. We're just some kids from Chicago. We're jumping up and down, laughs, and then we go back into the studio and went back to being super professional. It was Michael Jackson. So crazy. So R. Kelly couldn't believe it. So he told Wayne Williams that they was going to be working with Michael Jackson. And can you believe this? And that it was crazy. He's also came out and said, we're just some kids from Chicago. So, of course, R. Kelly is from from Chicago, and of course he's sitting in prison right now in New York City on some charges that he had to face over that way, and of course the judge is not going to let him go at all. Yes, I've always been my own man. I'm a Christian. I fear God. I don't fear man. I'm known for being painfully honest. People know Wayne is going to saying exactly what he's thinking. Okay, so R. Kelly claims he's a Christian. Then why did he do what he did to those girls when they were underage? Think about that one. And of course, people know Wayne is going to saying exactly what he's thinking. Well, and also R. Kelly says he feared God. Well, he better fear man too, because he's saying I don't fear man. Well, he better fear man real quick, because he's gonna be in jail if he's found guilty. 195 years in jail. That's a pretty long time. Labels look for artists with numbers, often to their detriment. That leads to one-hit wonders who don't last. I look for self-contained artists that also write and produce. I don't want one-trick ponies. Well, if he don't want one-trick ponies, then he could leave. Who cares? But and of course labels look for artists with numbers, often to their detriment, of course. He also said that I look for self-contained artists that also write and produce. Well, R. Kelly can't read it, allegedly, but we know that's a lame excuse, so he's got to have somebody read for him, really? And he also said he don't want one-trick ponies. What one-trick ponies is he talking about? I mean, R. Kelly has gone Looney Tunes. Absolutely, I'm working with nonprofits to help the young people. Chicago is where I was born and raised. I lived there for 40 years, and God gave me another life through music. It can do that for young people. So R. Kelly was born and raised there in Chicago. Okay, so we need to see the birth certificate of that. He said he lived there for 40 years, and God gave me another life through music. What does God have to do with any of this? God doesn't have nothing to do with the music. Only the person itself has to do with the music. R. Kelly didn't have numbers when I signed him. He turned out pretty okay. So Wayne Williams did sign R. Kelly, and he said that he turned out pretty okay. And of course, R. Kelly is just totally a disgusting person. Let me put it that way. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in the judicial process. I believe in the whole entire process. And so I believe everyone deserves their day in court. Everyone deserves their day. The fact that a whole bunch of people may want him to be guilty or whatever, a whole bunch of people wanted the Central Park 5 to get the death penalty, and they were not guilty. Now, I really don't know anything about the Central Park 5 of getting the death penalty, because I really haven't done any research on them. But he did say everyone deserves their day. In other words, their day in court. In other words, the fact that a whole bunch of people may want him to be guilty or whatever. So, and then of course he says a whole bunch of people wanted the Central Park 5 to get the death penalty, and they were not guilty. So what did the Central Park 5 do? They pretty much did something to somebody, and they were not guilty. So why did they get off? Why did they get to walk away from it? And then R. Kelly is sitting in jail right now for the 40 molestation charges, allegedly. In the 1980s in Chicago, they were touring guys all the time, trying to get confessions out of them. People didn't believe that the police were targeting black people till they started putting video cameras up and finally seeing it for themselves. So in the 1980s in Chicago, they were torturing. I'm sorry. I'm just tired and upset with someone right now. But they were torturing guys all the time, trying to get confessions out of them. And of course, you know, with the Central Park 5, Dave wasn't going to snitch, but you know how that is. People didn't believe that the police were targeting black people until they started putting video cameras up. So the police did put video cameras up, and they were finally seeing it for themselves. Well, of course, the police have to see it for themselves because police think people are nuts. And the Chicago Police Department should talk because they're the ones that are crazy themselves. Yeah, now that I can't speak on, because unlike the other stuff where I've done research and homework on, I don't know anything about this. So I really can't speak on that because I'm not going to be the person who says stuff that I don't know about, because I'm not that dude. So I'll have to do homework on that and research and that sort of stuff. I know nothing about that. Yeah, so Wayne Williams said he can't speak on it, so there was nothing he could do about it. But unlike the other stuff where I've done research and homework on, he says I don't know anything about this. So he doesn't know anything about the Central Park 5 killing at all. And he says, because I'm not going to be the person who says stuff that I don't know about. Because I'm not that dude. And of course, he wasn't going to say anything, and he says, so I'll have to do homework on that and research and that sort of stuff. So for now, he's saying that he'll have to do research and all that, and also he says, I know nothing about it. And so if he don't know anything about it, he don't know nothing about it. No, I'm not the reason why he exists. God's the reason why he exists. So now he's saying that God is the reason why. I really wish people would leave God out of this because he has nothing to do with it, really. So, you know, I mean, come on. Listen, a lot of people helped R. Kelly. Now, sure, I signed him. But a lot of people worked with R. Kelly. He's had mentors. Alright, so R. Kelly was now signed by Wayne Williams, but a lot of people worked with R. Kelly. Like I said, if you're going to mute R. Kelly, please silence the other singers too that have worked with R. Kelly, because you know what? Everything that R. Kelly touches, they have to be silenced too. People have come up to me and said, well, without you, he never would have been who he's become. And I can't agree with that, because someone else would have signed him. Someone was trying to sign him when I signed him. I think that R. Kelly, because of his talent, would have been R. Kelly regardless of me. Not sure. I helped in the process and I worked with him. I also know what I can do because I've done this for other artists as well. But make no mistake, R. Kelly would have been R. Kelly. So after R. Kelly was signed, he also says who he's become, and I can't agree with that. So I guess there's some negative things that he cannot believe at all, and of course because someone else would have signed him. So somebody else would have signed him. Why didn't they? Because Wayne Williams wanted him and he got him. He signed R. Kelly. He says I helped in the process and I worked with him. All right, so he worked with R. Kelly. And also, he says, I also know what I can do because I've done this for other artists as well. So he has done this for other celebrities as well, not just R. Kelly himself. So who is Chris Brown? Synonymous with. So now they're asking, who is Chris Brown? What, R. Kelly don't know who Chris Brown is? Really? Right. So, do you think Tina approved of him assaulting Rihanna? Now, Tina approved of him assaulting Rihanna. It's not okay to assault a woman. It's never okay. And of course, with Rihanna, Chris Brown had allegedly assaulted her when they was together. We're dealing with human beings. How they do in their personal life, that's on them. That's who they are. I'm not responsible for that. I'm not responsible for any of the artists I work with. I'm responsible for my kids. That's who I'm responsible for, my children. Wait a minute, how are you going to come out and say he's not responsible for any of the artists that he works with? He should be responsible for it. He should take the responsibility. And then and of course he says he's responsible for his kids. Well, okay, yes, you could be responsible for your kids, but also you need to take responsible for the music artists as well. I just want to be clear, though. I'm just saying that there's a process, and we'll see what happens with the outcome of the process and see what happens. So he wanted to be clear about it. He said, I'm just saying that there's a process, and we'll see what happens with the outcome of the process and see what happens. Oh my gosh, that's a tongue twister. Maybe there's new evidence. Maybe there's new things that could change a lot of people's minds. But do I believe in the process as long as it's done correctly without prejudice? Alright, so he's saying maybe there's new things that could change. So what changes could there be? And of course a lot of people's minds. But I do believe in the process. Well, if he believes in the process, then he should believe of what R. Kelly had done to those girls when he did what he did. But I do believe in the process as long as it's done correct. Okay, we just have to wait and see. I pray for everybody. I pray that if there were victims, that those victims are all right in health and everything. And I pray for them. So Wayne Williams wants to make sure all the victims are all right in health and everything, and I pray for them. So he's praying for the victims, obviously. So he's really not interested too much with R. Kelly, but he did sign him. Then he says, but I do believe in the process. What process is he talking about? If Robert's a victim, then of course I pray for him if he's being set up or whatever. But at the end of the day, none of us know. So we have to wait and see. No, I think that as a black man in America, being stopped by the police for no reason early on in my life, I made a point of not making assumptions. Alright, so now we know where that's getting us. So he's saying, so we have to wait and see. And he says, no, I think that as a black man in America being stopped by the police for no reason early on in my life, I made a point of not making assumptions. So he wasn't making no assumptions at all, but still. What's the volume of convictions? Well, there's a lot of convictions that R. Kelly's getting charged on, of course, and he has all them charges that are piled up on him. Okay, well, now we wait and see. Yeah, so now they gotta wait and see of what's going to happen. And like I said, if R. Kelly is found guilty, he'll get 195 years in prison. So that's a very long time. And of course, the judge wants to wait until April 2020 to start this trial. I mean, why not just do it now and get it over with? Why wait till 2020 to do this trial that he allegedly did? I mean, the girls came forward with their stories, and of course, he got charged with them all. Leave your comments below. I am out.